What's up, what's up, what's up? Hope everybody's doing good. I have another one here for you today. I'm coming up with the trimmer and I'm going to begin my blowout, also known as a temple fade, also known as brook, apple. I've heard it called a lot of things, or I kind of call it a taper personally. But anyways, I'm coming up, I'm going to begin my line there, and you notice that I'm taking care not to wipe out the front of her hairline because I want to leave some room there, so when I go in with the razor I still have something to edge up and it will look really nice coming down. As I reach the top of the line, I start moving down with the electric shaver so that I don't create additional work for myself. I'm coming up with the open taper. I'm going to create another guideline just above where I'm working, and little by little I'm going to begin closing my taper down. See me working here with the Andis Envies. On a side note, I've really been enjoying taking out skin lines with them, and I think the guards are so horrible that I really don't use them to do much else, but at this level I think they're fantastic. They never snag, never cause me any problems. Here I am there working the corner and using the corners not to make more work for myself. I also want to point out that people often spend time in the sun, and sometimes they'll have some sunburn or little tan line there, so don't try to beat yourself up too much. I'm just going to repeat the same process though with the number one. I have it open with the taper, and little by little I'm going against the grain and I'm going in different directions trying to use it for all it's worth, and I'm going to begin closing the taper down. I think one thing that happens a lot with a lot of barbers is they start to get ahead of themselves and they kind of jump the gun and jump to the next step a little bit too soon. I mean, really, move that clipper around and it's going to feel like you're doing the same things and going over the same spot over and over again, but you're not. You are making a difference. So in this last step, I'm going in with the 1/16 and I'm going to just clean up a little bit. I don't like to go straight to the 1/16 from my open taper because I feel like there's a little bit of overlap there. I feel like when the taper is open and you cut with that, if you use the half and you have it all the way closed, it'll actually be shorter than an open taper in some cases, and I feel like there's a little bit of overlap there. So I skip that step altogether and I do what I can with the one first, and then I just go back in and I polish it with the 1/16. Now I'm just polishing it up a little bit with the trimmer, and the fade's looking really good. I'm gonna go ahead and line her in with the razor real quick before I move on to my next step so that you can see why I left that whole front of the sideburn area out. I'm just going to use the heel and I'm coming directly against the grain so that you can see that line and so that it lasts as long as possible for the client. And if I would have wiped off the very front of her sideburn there, it still would have looked alright, but I wouldn't have had something to edge it up into. I'm just going to go around her ear a little bit. And now basically I'm kind of done with this side. I'm going to move on to the back and I'm going to show you the taper in the back. Side note about the taper in the back. You can practice these all the time with your clients, and it's really going to help you progress and do better skin fades moving forward. So I'm going to begin with the trimmer. I'm going to make my line kind of high. I really want this to show some fade. I want to see some skin at the very bottom. And in order to do that, I need to make the taper high enough to do it. So this is very common with a lot of haircuts. You'll have to do a taper. I'd say 90% of my haircuts I do a taper with. Very rarely does somebody tell me square it off or round it off. So this is a skill that you really got to work on, and that's why I thought this video would be great, using it upside down there to get a little extra close before I use my electric shaver. And I'm kind of just shaping it in so that when I go back through and I line it up with the razor, I'll be able to make it even on both sides. A little difficult to film without getting in the way of the camera. I just tried my best. I was kind of standing back, extending my arm really far in some of these clips. So I'm moving up with the razor, with the electric shaver, and as you see, when I get to the top of the line, I actually start moving it down, 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 down. Right there, you see that? I come up and then I meet it and I come down. Principle of this whole electric shaver business is that I don't want to create an additional line. I want there to be no line in between what I made with my trimmer and the skin transition. I want that to be smooth. So Here I am again. I'm going to begin the same way I always do, with an open taper, and I'm going to put in my guideline with the open taper. Giving myself about an inch, inch and a half, because that's going to be the real transitional area there. And I'm not really flicking too much, a little bit here and there, but you know, again, I'm kind of standing behind the camera, so I'm not really working in the exact same way that I normally would. I'm just really trying to give you a good view of this, but I want you to see how careful I am before I move steps to move that clipper around and really try to catch against the grain as best as possible. And make sure that you've done everything you can do with that particular length before you move on to the next length. See, now you see me starting to close the taper lever, and you're going to see this line start to fade away. Just little by little, I'm staying just underneath the previous area I worked in. That's really all there is to it. I mean, my style is real simple. This is what I try to teach. I just repeat the same process over and over and over, and I will drill it into your head. And you can take this same technique to a full skin fade if you want. But I encourage you to really practice your tapers. And if you get really good at your tapers, you're going to find the rest of this is going to fall into place for you. So moving on, when I begin the next step after I'm done finally cleaning up the transitional area, I want you to see that I'm doing the same thing over and over again, even though I'm doing it with a different guard. So eventually here, I'll put away the envy. I'm going to grab the magic clips. I'm going to put my number 1 on. I'm going to open the taper, and I'm going to knock out some of that bulk and some of that line that I originally created as a guideline. With my number 1 and my open taper, repeating the exact same process. I do apologize for the lighting. I tried my best not to get in the way of the shot, and I was standing in the way of the light. I'm moving up with the taper all the way open, being real careful to get every hair, and little by little I'm going to begin closing the taper lever until it's all the way closed and I've knocked out all of that bulk that I've created with my original line. And if there's anything further to clean up, I'll just go back and I'll repeat the same process, staying a little bit lower in the area I originally made the line, and I will use my 1/16 guard all the way open, and I'll feather it down until it's all the way closed. And my light comes back, and you can start to see that the taper is beginning to look the way I want it to. And don't be in a hurry to get rid of the guard, and don't be in a hurry to jump to the next step. I'm now using my fade blade a little bit to polish up any little area that I might have left over, but I'm really trying to express to you that you want to be thorough with these guards. You don't want to just jump from one to the next. It'll be so easy for you to create a lot more work for yourself, and your fades are going to wind up getting a lot higher as a result of it. So just take your time with each step and use it to the fullest, and make sure that you're moving that clipper around and you're finding that area to go against the grain. I'm just going to shape in these two sides so that I pretty much have the back of her haircut done. And we'll get into the next shave, and we'll get into all the shaving in different videos. That's why I'm trying to departmentalize. I want you guys to learn one thing at a time. I don't want to put too much on your plate. I want you to be able to understand it, and I want you to go and try this as soon as you possibly can so that you can lock this information in your brain and you can move forward and do quality work. So I'm pretty much going to repeat the same process on this side. You can see that it was a little easier to see her front of her hairline and how I left it alone. Exact same thing, exact same reason. I just want to have something to line up afterwards, but I'm just going to go up with the trimmer. And I'm going to begin my exact same process over and again. No matter how many times I do a fade, I'll begin it with the open taper. I'll begin feathering that down and taking out that line, and so on and so forth with the number 1, skipping the 1/16. and you're gonna see all that weight start to dissipate, and you're gonna see that fade start to come out the way that you want it. So we're getting kind of close to the end of the video here, and before we go, I wanted to bring up the think tank portion, and I wanted to share a story with you. I want to ask you if you've ever had a client that was really difficult, and how did you handle it? Did it end good? Did it end bad? Were you able to win them over? I'd be interested in the comments if anybody wants to share their story. My story, where I will admit I was at fault, but I had a guy who was waiting in the rotation. I had a lot of customers waiting for me specifically, but he was in the rotation. So I decided to follow the rules, obviously, and I take him and I treat him just as I would any other new customer. I give him plenty of respect. Well, he begins disrespecting me, saying, oh, you know, this place, they only use how the machine, no one knows how to use the scissors. And he's going on and on, being real disrespectful. I'm like, don't worry, sir, I use the scissors all the time. It's not a problem, I'll take good care of you. And then he tells me, this place is like a damn Supercuts. And that's when I got upset. And I told him, if you don't like it, you could leave. Alright, I know I handled the situation bad. I probably could have won him over. I probably should have won him over. But I made a little mistake there in my customer service, and I always try to improve. So I learned from those mistakes. That's why I shared them with you. If anybody else has another story that they want to share, please, I'd love to hear it. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. I got another video coming real soon. The double flat top, 2 flat tops, slightly different, a lot of new techniques. Filming a lot lately, I got a lot of stuff to go through, so please stick with me. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you in my next video. I'm out.